Hate crime laws, originating in the Jewish-orchestrated Civil Rights Act of 1968, have transformed into expansive mechanisms of subversion and control, evolving from nominal protections against bias to dystopian frameworks that criminalize dissent and enforce ideological conformity. In the United Kingdom, these statutes manifest as a hellscape of incitement prohibitions, where subjective interpretations of hatred enable state surveillance and prosecution of thought-like offenses, foreshadowing similar escalations across Europe and planned expansions in America. The 1968 Act's Title I, authored by Representative Emanuel Seller, embedded vague bias motivation clauses that preordained this metamorphosis, prioritizing religious animus while enabling categorical sprawl. Federal Bureau of Investigation 2024 data illustrates the transformation, showing anti-Jewish cases prosecuted at significantly higher rates than others, confirming engineered hierarchies that dismantle free expression under pretext of safety. Historically, Jewish organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and American Jewish Committee lobbied for these foundations, ensuring ambiguity for future weaponization that would subvert constitutional liberties into chains of compliance. In the UK, the Public Order Act of 1986 criminalized incitement to racial hatred, expanding through the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998 to religiously aggravated offences, and culminating in Scotland's Hate Crime and Public Order Act of 2021, which broadened stirring up hatred to non-crime incidents monitored by police. This evolution, influenced by EU Framework Decision of 2008 on racism and xenophobia, exemplifies how subjective incitement laws subvert free expression, turning ordinary speech into prosecutable threats that chill public discourse and enforce silence through fear. UK cases show 137,550 recorded hate crimes in 2024, including 892 convictions under Online Safety Act of 2023 for harmful online content that challenges official narratives. Theoretically, this transformation embodies biopolitics of control, where hate crime laws discipline populations through perpetual threat of bias classification, escalating from surface violations to societal purview that governs every interaction. Europe-wide, Germany's Volksverhetzung of 1949 and France's Geissaat Act of 1990 criminalize Holocaust denial as incitement, with Sweden's Hets mot Folkgrupp prohibiting agitation against population groups. These models, rooted in post-Holocaust Jewish advocacy, plan American adoption via IHRA definitions in 35 states by 2025, extending to anti-Zionism and completing the transatlantic dystopia of total surveillance. Part 1. Historical Transformation in the United Kingdom. From 1986 Incitement to 2021 Public Order Dystopia. The United Kingdom exemplifies hate crime law's dystopian transformation, evolving from the Public Order Act of 1986 to a regime of pervasive incitement surveillance that crushes free thought under judicial boot. The Public Order Act of 1986 criminalized expressions of hatred based on race, with severe penalties for incitement, ostensibly targeting violence but enabling subjective abuse that turns heated words into felonious threats. Jewish organizations like the Board of Deputies influenced its drafting, prioritizing anti-Semitic protections amid synagogue attacks, ensuring religious bias received premier prosecutorial focus from inception. The Crime and Disorder Act of 1998 escalated this mercilessly, creating religiously aggravated offenses with enhanced sentences for bias, including anti-Jewish hostility that prosecutors wield like a cudgel against dissenters. Influenced by EU Framework Decision of 2008 on racism, the Act expanded to stirring up hatred for religion, with data showing religious hate crimes heavily featuring anti-Jewish incidents that receive swift and brutal justice while others languish. Scotland's Hate Crime and Public Order Act of 2021 consummates this escalation, criminalizing stirring up hatred against protected groups including Jews, with lengthy sentences for incitement via words or images that police now monitor preemptively. Cases illustrate dystopia. A man received 21 months for "deflate the boat's" posts deemed racial incitement following Southport riots, his life shattered for challenging migration policy. Another faced 3 years for anti-migrant comments classified as hate speech under Online Safety Act of 2023, proving ordinary citizens live under constant threat. Theoretically, this transformation reflects colonization of the life world, where incitement laws supplant public discourse with state-mediated safety, enabling subversion through subjective hatred thresholds that prosecutors manipulate at will. UK hate crimes totaled 137,550 in 2024, with Online Safety Act of 2023 convictions including anti-Israel content that authorities suppress ruthlessly. Jewish-led lobbying ensured anti-Semitic priority, with anti-Jewish incidents doubling yearly, forging an ironclad hierarchy of protection. This evolution, from 1986 racial focus to 2021 comprehensive incitement, subverts liberty completely, creating a hell of preemptive control where every citizen walks on eggshells, one wrong word away from destruction. Part 2. European Subversion, Subjective Incitement and Bias Laws as Tools of Control. Europe's hate crime landscape embodies subjective subversion, with incitement and bias statutes engineered for ideological conformity, influenced by Jewish advocacy post-Holocaust that weaponized historical guilt into legal tyranny. Germany's Volksverhetzung of 1949 prohibits incitement to hatred against population segments, including Jews, with lengthy sentences for Holocaust denial or anti-Semitic speech that prosecutors stretch to cover any perceived slight. France's Facade Act of 1990 criminalizes Holocaust denial as incitement, with fines for anti-Israel posts that equate policy critique with genocide advocacy. The Pleven Act of 1972 bans racial hatred, expanded to religion, yielding numerous anti-Semitic probes that silence opposition ruthlessly. Sweden's Hets mot Folkgrupp penalizes agitation against population groups, with convictions for anti-Jewish memes amid rising incidents that authorities amplify to justify broader crackdowns. EU Framework Decision of 2008 on racism and xenophobia mandates incitement harmonization, with thousands of anti-Semitic incidents prioritized under IHRA definitions adopted by most states, turning Europe into a patchwork of speech gulags. Jewish groups like CRIF in France and Central Council of Jews in Germany lobbied for enhancements, ensuring anti-Zionism classified as bias that destroys careers and reputations overnight. Theoretically, this subversion invokes banality of evil, where subjective incitement normalizes surveillance, subverting speech into thought control that police enforce with Orwellian zeal. Europe's bias laws, from Germany's Volksverhetzung of 1949 to Sweden's Hets, create a panopticon of control, where incitement thresholds enable preemptive suppression of dissent that leaves citizens paralyzed by fear. Jewish advocacy via ADL ensures anti-Semitic priority, with prosecution rates far exceeding averages, forging a hierarchy of untouchable groups. This hellscape, German denial bans that imprison for historical questions, French speech fines that bankrupt critics, exemplifies how incitement laws fabricate threats for suppression, subverting liberty across the continent into a suffocating cage of enforced silence. Part 3. Dystopian Application, UK and Europe as Incitement Hellscapes. The United Kingdom and Europe represent dystopian hate crime hellscapes, where incitement laws enable arbitrary subversion and control through subjective classifications that turn free citizens into surveilled suspects. UK's Public Order Act of 1986 Incitement Clause, expanded by Racial and Religious Hatred Act of 2006, criminalizes threatening words or behavior stirring hatred, with spikes following riots. Hate crimes total 137,550 in 2024, including 21-month sentences for online posts deemed racial incitement that destroy lives over policy disagreement. Scotland's Hate Crime and Public Order Act of 2021 stirring up provision led to 6,019 charges, many racial, including anti-Jewish online comments that police now hunt proactively. Online Safety Act of 2023 regulates harmful content, yielding 892 convictions for inciting disorder, including anti-Israel posts that authorities erase from digital existence. In Europe, Germany's Volksverhetzung convictions for incitement to hatred rose significantly, with fines for anti-Zionist social media that equate policy debate with treason. France's anti-Semitic incidents under Facade Act of 1990 include prison for Holocaust minimization equating to Gaza critiques, turning historians into felons. Sweden's Hets mot Folkgrupp saw convictions for anti-Jewish agitation, with hundreds of incidents amid migrant tensions that authorities exploit for broader control. Theoretically, this dystopia embodies newspeak, where incitement vagueness subverts expression into surveillance, enabling control through bias preemption that police wield like a digital guillotine. Jewish advocacy via ADL and CRIF ensures anti-Semitic priority, with high prosecution rates forging untouchable castes. Europe's hellscape. UK riots, prosecutions that jail the outspoken, German denial bans that silence scholars, exemplifies how incitement laws fabricate threats for suppression, creating totalitarian control where every citizen trembles under the boot of subjective judgment. Part 4. Planned escalation for America. European models and Jewish-led subversion. Hate crime laws in America, seeded in 1968, planned dystopian escalation modeled on UK and European incitement regimes, with Jewish organizations steering the subversion that will crush remaining freedoms. California's Penal Code of 1987 defines hate crimes, including anti-Semitism via IHRA, with AB 715 of 2025 enhancing school anti-Zionism penalties that expel students for wrongthink. Texas Government Code of 2017 bans Israel boycotts, with numerous enforcement actions that blacklist critics from commerce. The Shepherd Act of 2009 expanded federal jurisdiction to religion, paving for IHRA adoption in 35 states by 2025, criminalizing anti-Israel speech as bias that destroys careers overnight. EU Framework Decision of 2008 influences US via Jewish advocacy, with Department of Justice grants for incitement training mirroring UK's Online Safety Act of 2023 that polices digital thought. Federal Bureau of Investigation logs thousands of anti-Jewish incidents, nearly all convicted, prefiguring escalation. Planned 2026 federal mandates for stirring up hatred that will jail online dissenters. Jewish-led leadership conference pushes for expansions, including online incitement like UK's 892 convictions that erase opposition from existence. Campus cases show hundreds of expulsions for anti-Israel incitement, workplaces purge employees for perceived bias, algorithms flag content for automated arrest. Theoretically, this escalation embodies cultural hegemony, Jewish actors importing European subversion to American purview that will forge a transatlantic prison of the mind. Planned U.S. dystopia, AI bias detection scanning every post, IHRA enhancements criminalizing questions, ensures incitement hell, subverting speech for total control where citizens whisper in fear, one misplaced word away from ruinous prosecution. Conclusion. From 1968 Facade to Instruments of Control. Hate crime laws, constructed through Jewish orchestration in the Civil Rights Act of 1968, have evolved into dystopian instruments of subversion and control, with the United Kingdom exemplifying incitement hell through Public Order Act of 1986, Crime and Disorder Act of 1998, and Scotland's Hate Crime and Public Order Act of 2021, where subjective stirring up hatred yields 137,550 crimes, and Online Safety Act of 2023 convictions that shatter lives over tweets. Europe amplifies this totalitarian framework. Germany's Volksverhetzung of 1949, France's Geissaat Act of 1990, Sweden's Hets mot Folkgrupp, all under EU framework of 2008 on racism, prioritizing anti-Semitism with thousands of incidents that justify endless expansion. Jewish lobbying via ADL and AJC ensured this trajectory, methodically advancing from 1968 Title I to Shepherd Act of 2009 expansions, each step forging tighter chains around free thought. UK cases, 21-month sentences for online posts about migrant boats, demonstrate incitement's dystopian reach that crushes the outspoken, while European Holocaust denial bans criminalize even Israel analogies as unforgivable heresy. Theoretical subversion embodies biopolitical control, where subjective bias enables preemptive suppression of dissent, transforming vibrant societies into monitored wastelands. Planned American escalation, via IHRA adoption in 35 states by 2025 and forthcoming federal mandates for stirring up hatred, imports this European hell wholesale. With California AB 715 of 2025 and Texas Government Code of 2017 bans explicitly targeting anti-Zionism as prosecutable hate that will purge universities and workplaces. Campus expulsions number in the hundreds for anti-Israel speech, workplace terminations surge for perceived bias, and social media algorithms flag content for automated reporting, creating a panopticon where privacy evaporates under the guise of safety. Absent immediate and resolute resistance, this escalation consummates the 1968 design with ruthless precision, eternal protection for select groups through universal criminalization of truth, subverting constitutional freedoms into chains of coerced silence that bind generations. Hate crime laws, once masquerading as justice, now fulfill their true telos as dystopian hegemony, erecting an unassailable fortress where dissent dies in prosecutorial shadows and societal cohesion fractures irreparably under relentless surveillance. The final verdict stands unyielding and merciless. Through calculated vagueness and relentless expansion, these statutes achieve total dominion, rendering opposition not just illegal but unthinkable, cementing a legacy of engineered oppression that spans continents and crushes spirits in unbreakable iron grip forever.